My name is Madison Hayes, and on paper I look like the kind of woman who has it all together. From the outside, you'd see the glass walls of my downtown apartment catching the last streaks of golden sunlight, the city stretching below me like a living painting. You'd see me, pressed silk blouse, hair smoothed into place, gold watch glinting at my wrist. Successful.
Composed.
Untouchable. But no one ever sees the things I don't post online, the quiet tremors of my past, the hollow places where family should have been. Tonight, my phone buzzes against the marble countertop. The familiar ping of the Hayes family group chat. I swipe it open without thinking, then freeze. Photos.
Dozens of them.
My parents, my brother, my sister-in-law, even the kids, all smiling on a beach in Florida. Matching t-shirts, cocktails in hand, sunset behind them. A trip I had carefully planned, booked, and paid for. $3,100. My money, my effort, my idea. And me? Not in a single frame. I scroll, each picture slicing deeper, until I reach a text from my mother. It was beautiful. We wished you could have made it, Maddie. Next time, be clearer about joining us. Be clearer. I let the words settle in, sharp and absurd. Clear? What could be clearer than footing the entire bill? My nails press into my palm, but outwardly, I remain still.
That's the thing about me.
I've learned how to smile when my chest is burning. But this time is different. Because if they think I'm still the girl who needs their approval, they're in for a revelation. It wasn't the first time they had cut me out of something. I was 21, still in college, still trying desperately to belong. That night, I remember the smell of roasted chicken wafting through our kitchen, my mother's laughter spilling from the dining table, the TV buzzing low in the background. I had come home, my heart racing, clutching an acceptance letter I thought would finally make them proud. Mom, Dad, guess what? I blurted, holding up the envelope. I got the internship at Whitman and Gray. It's paid. They only take 5 students across the country. For a moment, I expected fireworks, hugs, at least a flicker of pride. Instead, my father barely looked up from carving his plate. That's nice, Maddie, he muttered. But you're not planning to move to New York, are you? That's unrealistic. My brother, Ryan, smirked over his glass of sweet tea. You? Living in Manhattan? Please. You'd last 2 weeks before crying home. Their words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. My fingers trembled around that envelope. I tried to smile, tried to tell myself it didn't matter, but it did. It always did. That night ended the same way so many did. Me in my bedroom, the wallpaper peeling near the corner, pressing my face into my pillow so they wouldn't hear me cry. The next morning, as I was shoving books into my bag, my grandmother knocked softly on the door. She had always been different, gentler, quieter, but sharper in ways no one noticed. They don't see you yet, she whispered, pressing something into my palm. A small, silver locket, cool against my skin. But one day they will. Don't beg for their applause, Madison. Build your own stage. Stand on it. Her words sank deeper than any wound my family left. By the time I left for New York that summer, the locket hung steady against my chest, a reminder pulsing with every step I took. I didn't say goodbye the way a daughter should. I didn't look back at the porch light flickering behind me, because I knew if I looked back, I'd never leave. And leaving was the only way I was ever going to survive. New York did not welcome me with open arms. It swallowed me whole, spat me out, and dared me to crawl back home. My first apartment was barely the size of my childhood bedroom. The radiator hissed all night. The walls were so thin I could hear my neighbor sobbing through them, and the window overlooked a brick wall instead of the skyline I'd once dreamed about. I bought my desk at a thrift store, wobbly on one leg, and worked by the light of a lamp missing its shade. I survived on instant noodles, stale bagels, and endless cups of coffee. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, questioning if my father had been right. Unrealistic. The word followed me like a shadow. But then there was her, Evelyn Shaw. She was the kind of woman who owned a room without raising her voice. My internship supervisor at Whitman and Gray, Evelyn wore tailored blazers and a streak of silver. through her dark hair, like lightning caught mid-strike. She saw me fumbling with files one night, long after everyone else had gone home. "You're still here?" she asked. I stammered something about not wanting to mess up. She studied me for a moment, then smiled faintly.
Good.
The ones who stay late aren't always the brightest, but they're usually the ones who make it. Evelyn didn't coddle me, but she believed in me. When I doubted myself, she'd tilt her head and say, "Why not you, Madison?" That question lit fires I didn't know I carried. The first real break came when she let me pitch to a small client. My hands shook under the conference table, nails biting into my palm. But I did it. And when they signed the deal, Evelyn clapped me on the shoulder with a quiet, "Told you." From there, the wins grew, tiny at first. A freelance side project that paid my rent for the month. A startup that trusted me with their brand strategy. A check with my name on it, proof that I wasn't just surviving, I was building. The locket my grandmother gave me never left my neck. On nights when exhaustion clawed at me, when I thought about packing it all in and crawling home, I'd hold it tight and hear her voice, "Build your own stage." And so I did. I registered my own LLC in my mid-20s, quietly, without telling a soul back home. I poured every cent into it, working insane hours, skipping vacations, ignoring birthdays. By the time my brother posted family photos from a cruise I hadn't even been invited to, I was signing contracts worth more than that trip cost. But I never bragged. On social media, I posted nothing but the occasional coffee cup or skyline photo. To my family, I was still trying to make it.
It was easier that way.
Because the truth is, success tastes different when no one expects you to have it. It's sharper, sweeter, almost like a secret weapon you keep tucked close, waiting for the day it'll matter most. And deep down, I knew that day was coming. The day finally came wrapped in ordinary sunlight. It was a Saturday in late spring when my parents called to say they were passing through the city and wanted to stop by. Their voices were casual, but something in me stirred. This was it. The stage I had built. The moment my grandmother had told me to wait for. I didn't warn them. I didn't prepare them. I simply said, "Of course. Come by around 4. When the elevator doors opened to the 32nd floor, they stepped out into a lobby lined with sleek marble and modern art. My company's name, Hayes and Company Strategies, gleamed on the glass wall in brushed steel letters. My mother's heels clicked against the floor as her eyes darted around. "This is fancy. Are you renting an office here? Or something?" I smiled and swiped my card, letting the glass doors unlock. "Something like that." Inside, the reception desk stretched under pendant lights. My assistant, Jordan, looked up and greeted me with a cheerful, "Hey, Madison." My father frowned. "Wait, you work here?" "No," I said, leading them past rows of open offices, designers at their computers, strategists huddled over whiteboards. The smell of coffee and ink filled the air. The hum of success buzzed in every corner. I stopped at the corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Manhattan skyline. My office. A walnut desk, a shelf lined with books I'd read and lived by, a framed photo of my grandmother smiling at me in her garden. On the wall hung the very first check I ever earned for Hayes and Company, preserved like a badge of honor. "This," I said, turning to them, "is mine." Silence stretched. My brother Ryan finally scoffed. "Yours? You mean they let you use it, right? Like a company perk?" I opened a drawer, pulled out the embossed portfolio with my name etched in gold.
No.
"I own it. All of it." I laid out the numbers in quiet, devastating order. Contracts signed with major clients. A revenue sheet that made my father's jaw twitch. Net worth figures that silenced even Ryan. For the first time in my life, they didn't have a snide comment ready. Just the hollow echo of disbelief filling the room. My mother reached for the back of a chair, steadying herself. "But we thought you were struggling. You never told us." I laughed softly, though it wasn't amusement, it was release. Why would I? Every time I tried to share something with you, you dismissed me, mocked me, cut me out. Remember that vacation last month? The one I paid for. My father shifted uncomfortably. We didn't think you wanted to come. I cut him off, calm but firm. You knew I wanted to come. You just didn't think I mattered enough. You didn't think I'd ever be more than the girl crying in her bedroom, begging to be taken seriously. But here we are. Their faces were a portrait of stunned silence. I let the pause hang, savoring the weight of the reveal. The skyline behind me glowed like a crown I hadn't asked for, but had earned anyway. This is who I am now, I said, voice steady. Not because you believed in me, but because I stopped waiting for you to. The words landed with the finality of a gavel. And in that moment, for the first time in my life, I saw it in their eyes. The thing I had been chasing since I was a little girl holding an acceptance letter in a noisy kitchen. Respect. The silence in my office was almost unbearable. I could hear the faint buzz of the city through the glass, the distant honking of taxis below, even the low hum of the air vent overhead. My family sat across from me, people who once made me feel so small, now looking like strangers in a place they could barely comprehend. Ryan finally broke it. So, what now? You're just gonna rub it in our faces? I tilted my head, calm, collected.
No, Ryan.
I don't need to rub anything in. The truth speaks for itself. My father shifted in his chair, his voice low. We may have underestimated you, Madison. I'll admit that. But we're still family. Surely that counts for something. The old me would have leapt at those words, desperate for any scrap of acknowledgement. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I folded my hands on the desk and leaned forward. Family does count, I said slowly. But only if it acts like family. Respect. Honesty. Support. Those aren't optional anymore. They're the price of admission into my life. My mother frowned. What are you saying? I looked at each of them in turn, my voice unwavering. Ryan, if you want to be part of my world, you stop treating me like your punchline. No more jabs about me being weak. No more rolling your eyes when I speak. If you can't respect me as your equal, then you don't get access to me. Period. He opened his mouth to argue, but the look in my eyes silenced him. I turned to my mother. You, Mom. You don't get to keep tearing me down and then expect me to pay for your vacations. If you want me in your life, you start speaking to me with kindness. You start seeing me as your daughter, not your disappointment. Her lips pressed tight, but she didn't argue. Maybe for the first time, she knew she couldn't. Finally, I met my father's eyes. And you need to start listening. Really listening. Not dismissing me the way you always did. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be based on respect, not control. I leaned back, letting the words settle. Those are my conditions. Not because I want revenge, but because I refuse to repeat the past. I built this life with my own hands, and I won't let the same voices that tried to crush me back then poison it now. The silence after that was different, heavier, but also clearer. They weren't used to me setting terms. They weren't used to me having the power to walk away. But I did. And they knew it. For once, it was their turn to decide if they could live up to my expectations. They left my office quieter than I'd ever seen them. No raised voices, no sarcasm, no dismissive laughter, just the weight of my words following them out the door. For days afterward, I wondered if they'd ever call. And then slowly they did. Small messages at first. My mother texted me a picture of a book she was reading, something on women entrepreneurs. Thought of you, she wrote. It wasn't much, but it was more than I ever expected. Ryan called once, awkwardly, to ask if I wanted to join him at his kid's soccer game. He stumbled over the invitation, as if the word invite itself felt foreign on his tongue. I went, and for the first time, he introduced me to another parent, not as my sister who's still figuring it out, but as my sister, Madison. She runs her own firm. Even my father tried. Over dinner a month later, he leaned in, eyes softer than I remembered, and asked, "So tell me, Maddie, what's it really like, running your own company?" The question hung between us, raw and earnest. And for once, he actually listened when I answered. Change didn't come overnight. Old habits lingered, slips happened. But I could feel something shifting, like maybe they were finally seeing me, not the fragile girl they once dismissed, but the woman I had become. One night, after a long day at the office, I took off my heels and sat by the window of my apartment. The skyline glittered back at me, alive with a million untold stories. I reached for the silver locket at my neck, the one my grandmother had pressed into my hand all those years ago. I opened it, tracing the tiny photo of her smile. Her words echoed as clearly as if she were still beside me. Don't beg for their applause, Madison. Build your own stage. Stand on it. I smiled, a tear slipping down my cheek, not of sadness, but of recognition. I had built the stage. I had stood on it. And finally, they were in the audience. They said I should have been clearer. I whispered into the night. But I think my life says it all. And with that, I closed the locket and let the city's lights carry me forward, strong, independent, and whole.